Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we are diving headfirst into a truly massive document.
Yeah, this thing is comprehensive.
What we have here is basically a huge compilation detailing government schemes across India. It covers, well, almost everything.
Pretty much every facet of life in the economy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's far more than just a list, though.
Right.
This document gives us a unique vantage point, really. You can see the sheer breadth and the variety of approaches the government takes.
Everything from direct cash in hand
to building huge infrastructure projects, promoting new tech, empowering specific groups. It's all in there.
Exactly. So our mission in this deep dive is to navigate this thing, this extensive source, pull out the most important insights, and kind of understand what this whole landscape of programs tells us about national priorities, about strategies.
Finding the story within all that data.
Yeah, the narrative.
Think of it like getting a curated look at how a nation of over 1 billion people tries to tackle everything. Farming, education, health.
Economic growth.
All through policy and these targeted interventions.
Okay, let's jump in then. Let's start uncovering some maybe surprising facts, some interesting connections hidden in all these details.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
So first, let's just set the stage. We need to acknowledge the sheer scale here.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the document covers sectors like agriculture, education, health,
poverty, hunger, vulnerable sections,
finance, rural development, urban development, environment.
And then a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff, too. It's vast.
And the document uses a consistent structure, which is helpful, actually.
Yeah, that structure is key to making sense of it all. For each scheme, you get the objective.
What it's trying to do.
Right. Then the ministry responsible.
Who's running it?
The type is its central sector, so fully funded and run by the central government.
Not the centrally sponsored.
Exactly, where the costs are shared with the states. And then you get the salient features.
The nuts and bolts.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It gives you a decent lens to understand what's going on with each one.
That breakdown is crucial, especially knowing central sector versus centrally sponsored tells you a lot about how it works on the ground.
It really does, that partnership model.
All right, let's dig into the first big area then. Agriculture schemes.
Okay.
The source shows a clear focus here, supporting farmers, boosting production, building infrastructure. The foundations.
Absolutely. And one of the most significant one you hear a lot about is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, PM Kisan.
PM Kisan, right.
This is all about direct financial support. It's 6,000 euros per year.
Straight into the bank account.
Straight in. Delivered in 3 equal installments. Goes directly to land-holding farmer families.
So it's direct income support, not like a subsidy on fertilizer, but actual cash.
Precisely. A big shift.
And the document notes it started with small and marginal farmers, but then expanded.
Yeah, expanded to cover all land-owning farmer families. And the states and UTs, they play a key role in actually identifying who gets it.
This direct transfer approach, it must have a specific goal, right?
Yeah.
Bypassing middlemen.
Yes, exactly. The idea is giving farmers liquidity for, daily needs, buying seeds, inputs.
Without layers in between.
Right. A direct way to maybe help with input costs, possibly reduce some rural debt. The source focuses mainly on the objective and the mechanics of it, though.
Okay. Then we have Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, PMFBY.
Crop insurance.
Yeah, crop insurance. The objective here seems to be stabilizing farmers' income, protecting them against losses from
natural calamities, pests, diseases, the usual risks.
It replaced some older schemes, didn't it?
It did. And the document highlights a pretty big change in 2020.
What was that?
It became optional for loanee farmers. Before that, if you took a loan, you kind of had to enroll.
Ah, okay. So more choice now.
More choice. They also introduced a digital claim settlement thing called DigiClaim.
DigiClaim, aiming for faster payouts, I guess.
That's the goal, yeah.
Oh.
Speeding things up. The shift to being optional, it probably suggests they were responding to feedback, maybe implementation issues.
Makes sense. Give farmers the choice. Okay, another key area mentioned is infrastructure. That's addressed by the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, AIF.
Right, AIF. This one's about medium to long-term debt financing, but specifically for post-harvest stuff.
Like what? Cold storage. Processing units.
Exactly that kind of thing. And also community farming assets, things farmers can use together.
And this is part of that Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, self-reliant India.
Yep, part of that push, focusing on building value chains after the harvest, which is crucial.
So how does it work? The financing?
Well, the document points out it includes a 3% interest subvention.
Meaning the government covers part of the interest?
Correct. Makes the loan cheaper, Yeah. And there's credit guarantee coverage for loans up to 2 crore. It's all managed online through an MIS platform.
Okay, so you've got direct cash support with PM Kisan.
Yep.
Risk mitigation through insurance with PM FBY.
Right.
And funding for that critical post-harvest infrastructure with AIF.
It's a multi-pronged attack, really.
And the document lists a lot more too, doesn't it? Schemes for livestock, fisheries.
PM Prenam for alternative fertilizers.
Kisan credit card, and it notes the limit just went up to 5 lakh in the budget.
That's a significant jump.
Soil health cards, irrigation, food processing. It's a long list.
It really is.
So what does this collection of schemes tell you about the overall strategy for agriculture?
Well, what stands out is this layered approach. It's not just about, growing more crops.
Right.
It's about financial stability for the farmer.
Right.
Managing those inherent risks and building the capacity to actually process and store the produce.
Which can boost income way beyond just selling the raw harvest.
Exactly. It recognizes that the whole agricultural challenge is multifaceted. It's not just one single problem.
Okay, let's switch gears. Education sector schemes.
Right.
This area covers, again, a huge range: basic literacy, higher education, skill development.
And Samagra Shiksha is a massive umbrella scheme here. Really big.
Samagra Shiksha, what does that bring together?
It basically merges 3 older programs, SSA, RMSA, teacher education, into one single integrated scheme.
Covering what age range?
Everything from pre-primary, like preschool, all the way up to class 12.
Wow, so the whole school journey.
The whole school journey. And the objective is broad. Universal access, equity, quality education.
Promoting vocational skills, too, digital skills.
Yes, those are explicitly mentioned. And it aligns with SDG 4, the Sustainable Development Goal for Quality Education.
The source also mentions specific provisions, like for sanitation in schools.
Yes, SWASH provisions. And targeting specific areas like educationally backward blocks, or EBBs, and districts affected by left-wing extremism. Places needing extra focus.
That holistic approach seems key, ensuring that continuous pathway.
It is. Then you have PMSHRI. That stands for PM Schools for Rising India.
PMSHRI, what's the focus there? New schools?
No, not building new ones. It's about upgrading existing schools, making them model institutions that really showcase how to implement the National Education Policy 2020.
So they become examples for others.
Exactly. The document mentions a focus on experiential learning by doing modern labs, green initiatives like solar panels or water conservation.
And how are schools chosen?
It's a competitive process, a challenge mode, and their performance is tracked pretty rigorously.
Interesting. And the source mentioned something about states not getting funds if they didn't participate.
Yeah, apparently for some related program, funds were held back if states hadn't signed up for PMSHRI. It underscores that drive to get everyone aligned with the new policy vision.
It really highlights the push for those specific quality upgrades under NEP 2020.
Definitely. Then moving beyond school, you have the Skill India program.
Yes, Skill India, a major initiative.
Its core objective is bridging that gap between education and employment, addressing skill shortages in the workforce.
Creating jobs, boosting productivity.
That's the aim. And Skill India is another umbrella, really.
Covering various things.
Yes, programs like PMKVY, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yochana, which gives monetary rewards for completing skill training.
Okay.
There are initiatives for entrepreneurship, like PMYUVA Yoshana, vocational training for underprivileged groups through Jan Shikshan Sanstans, a World Bank-funded project called Sankalp to improve short-term training quality, even specific programs like UDAN for youth in Jammu and Kashmir.
And model training centers, PM Kaushal Kendras.
Exactly. The document sums it up as India's first integrated national scheme on this scale for skilling.
That's quite a statement.
It is. And there are others too, like the New India Literacy Program for adult literacy.
Tackling basic literacy for those who missed out.
Right. And PM USA, which is an upgraded higher education scheme, formerly RUSA.
Upgraded to align with NEP 2020.
Yep, aligning universities with those NEP pillars. Accessibility, quality, equity, accountability, affordability, all the A's and E's.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how these programs cover the entire spectrum. Foundational literacy.
School quality upgrades.
Vocational training, higher education reform.
It's end to end.
What does this layered approach tell us about how the government sees the education and skills challenge?
Well, it shows a recognition that you can't just fix one part. You need to work on multiple levels at the same time.
It's not enough just to get kids in school.
Exactly. You need quality teaching, you need updated infrastructure, you need relevant skills so they can actually get jobs and be productive.
And the focus on digital literacy, vocational training, That seems to reflect the changing job market.
Absolutely. Preparing people for the economy of today and tomorrow, not just yesterday.
Okay, moving on. Let's delve into health schemes, improving well-being, access to healthcare across the country.
Right. And the big one here is Ayushman Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, PMJAY.
Often called the world's largest health scheme.
It is. Highlighted as the world's largest health assurance scheme, the main goal is cutting down that financial burden of hospital expenses.
The out-of-pocket costs that can bankrupt families.
Precisely. It covers costs at primary, secondary, and even tertiary care levels, so pretty comprehensive.
And the source mentions a focus on robust verification, using Aadhaar.
Yeah, Aadhaar, fingerprints, iris scans, even facial authentication, plus specific anti-fraud measures built in. They seem very focused on making sure it reaches the right people and isn't misused.
And there was that campaign mentioned, Ayushman Bhava.
Right, a big outreach effort using things like Ayushman Mela's health camps and Ayushman Sabha's community meetings to make sure everyone knows about the scheme and health services reach them. Saturation coverage is the goal.
Okay, so that's the financial side, the insurance part. But what about the actual facilities?
That's where the Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission, ABHM, comes in.
ABM.
This is a pan-India program focused squarely on strengthening the healthcare infrastructure itself.
Building hospitals, labs.
Yes, and especially building capacity for things like disease surveillance and research in both urban and rural areas. It's also the scheme responsible for renaming the health and wellness centers.
They're now Ayushman Arogya Mandir.
Correct. So ABHM covers things like critical care blocks in hospitals, strengthening the National Center for Disease Control, NCDC, setting up public health units, labs, etc.
So you have PMJI covering the cost of treatment.
And ABHM building the places where you get the treatment.
Got it. The source also mentions Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Paryojana, PMBJP.
The generic medicine scheme.
Right. Providing quality generic medicines at much lower prices.
Significantly lower, yeah. It's implemented through dedicated shops, the Jan Aushadhi Kendras.
And the document mentions quality control.
Yes, quite detailed. Things like WHO GMP certification for manufacturers, NABL accreditation for labs testing the drugs, vendor blacklisting if they don't meet standards. They seem serious about the quality part of quality generic.
That's important for trust.
Absolutely. And interestingly, it notes that even primary agricultural credit societies, the PCS in villages, are now allowed to operate these Kendras.
Leveraging existing rural networks. Smart.
Seems like it. Trying to expand reach quickly.
The source lists other health initiatives, too. Support for making medical devices in India.
Yeah, assistance to medical device clusters.
A program using genetic markers to predict preterm birth. GRBH-INNI.
That sounds fascinating. Tackling infant mortality.
Financial aid for thalassemia treatment. A learning system for health professionals.
Saksham LMIS.
And importantly, the Telemanis initiative.
Yes, Telemanis. Providing 247 telemental health services. That's a huge step.
It really is, addressing mental health openly.
So what's really interesting here, I think, is how they're tackling the healthcare challenge from so many angles at once.
Affordability through PMJAFU and generic drugs.
Infrastructure through ABHM.
And leveraging technology for access, like Telemanis.
It's a comprehensive strategy. It acknowledges that health isn't just about treating sickness when it happens. It's about access, the facilities, the cost, and even mental well-being.
A much broader view of health. Okay, moving on. Let's look at schemes directly addressing immediate needs, poverty, hunger, and supporting specific vulnerable groups. The document groups these together.
Right, and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, PMGKAY, is probably the most prominent one here.
The free food grains scheme.
Exactly. It provides 5 kilograms of free food grains, rice or wheat per person per month.
And that's on top of what people already get under the regular food security law.
Yes. In addition to the existing PDS entitlements, it started as a COVID-19 relief measure, a part of that initial package.
But it's been extended now.
Yeah, recently extended for another 5 years. Until 2028, I believe.
5 years? That's significant. The objective is clearly food security for the most vulnerable.
Absolutely. The document lists the eligible groups, those covered by AAY and PHH, under the National Food Security Act, other vulnerable households.
But it also notes some challenges or discussion points around it.
It does. Mentions the significant cost, obviously. Providing free grain on this scale isn't cheap.
Impact on the fiscal deficit.
Right. And it also brings up the point that the beneficiary list for the underlying Food Security Act is still based on the 2011 census.
Which is over a decade old now.
Exactly. So some argue it might not perfectly capture everyone who needs support today. That's a common discussion point with PDS data.
Still, the extension for 5 years really underscores the perceived ongoing need for this direct food support.
Despite those fiscal implications, yes, it seems to be seen as essential.
Now, under the vulnerable sections category, there's a whole suite of programs.
A real variety. Mission Shakti is highlighted as an integrated program for women's empowerment.
Mission Shakti. Integrated how?
It has 2 sub-schemes. One called Sambal, which focuses on safety and security.
What's under Sambal?
Things like the one-stop centers for women facing violence, the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign,
which we'll come back to,
women helplines, and these things called Nari Adalats.
Nari Adalats, like women's courts.
Well, the source points out they're not legal courts, but more like community platforms for alternative dispute resolution, reconciliation, that kind of thing, focused on women's issues.
Okay. And the other sub-scheme?
That's Samarthya, more broadly focused on empowerment, reducing care burden, promoting skills, increasing women's participation in the workforce.
So safety and empowerment.
That's the idea. And Beti Bachao, BBBP, is mentioned again here.
Launched back in 2015, wasn't it? To address the falling child-sex ratio.
That was the initial trigger, yes. And it's heavily focused on behavioral and social change communication, changing mindsets.
How do they measure its success? The document mentions parameters.
Yeah, things like improvements in the sex ratio at birth, SRB, increases in institutional deliveries, better ANC registration, getting more girls into secondary education and skilling.
Checking dropout rates, too. Awareness of menstrual hygiene.
All of those are listed as key performance indicators for BBBP. It's quite broad now.
Okay. Another critical program mentioned is Saksham Anganwadi Mission Poshan 2.0.
Poshan 2.0, yeah. This is the big nutrition program.
Aimed at tackling malnutrition.
Yes, specifically in young children, 0 to 6 years, adolescent girls, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. The document calls it a strategic shift in nutrition delivery, taking a life cycle approach.
So what does it involve? Providing meals?
Hot cooked meals at Anganwadis, take-home rations,
Oh,
but also promoting local resources, like setting up Poshan Batika's little kitchen gardens at Anganwadis.
growing their own veg.
Exactly. Using technology, too, with a Poshan Tracker app for monitoring child growth and service delivery.
And linking nutrition with early education.
Yes, the Poshan B, Padabi Nutritional Education Also initiative, focuses on early childhood care and education, ECCE. And there are awareness drives like Rashtriya Poshan Maah.
The document concludes by highlighting the focus on social and behavioral change, calling it a Jan Andolan.
Right, a people's movement. Similar to BBBP, the idea is that just providing services isn't enough. You need to change practices and attitudes around nutrition at the community level.
Makes sense. You need both supply and demand side changes.
Precisely.
And the document, again, details many other schemes for vulnerable sections. Pensions for unorganized workers, PMSYM.
Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandan.
Development programs for minority concentration areas, PM Jan Vikas Karyakram.
PMJVK.
Empowerment schemes for SCs and OBCs like PM Adarsh Gram Yokshana.
And a revamped one for tribal majority villages, PMAGY.
Clean cooking fuel through PM Ujala Yojana 2.0, the deposit-free LPG connections.
Huge for women's health and time saving.
Child protection services under Mission Vatsalya. Promoting SCST women entrepreneurs through Stand Up India loans.
Offering financial support there.
Pensions for senior citizens via PM via Vandana Yojana. Even support for transgender persons and those engaged in begging through the SMILE scheme.
SMILE support for marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise. Quite specific.
It really is a diverse set of tools being used here.
Absolutely. You've got direct provision, like the food grains under PMGK.
Social support structures, like the one-stop centers.
Behavioral change campaigns, like BBBP and Poshan.
And then very targeted economic and social empowerment programs for specific groups.
It just reflects the many different ways people can be vulnerable and the need for tailored responses.
Okay, next up, financial inclusion and enterprise schemes. This is key, right? Banking, credit, business growth.
Absolutely fundamental. And Pradhan Mantri Jan Yojana, PMJDY, is arguably the cornerstone here.
The big financial inclusion mission.
Exactly. Described as a national mission on financial inclusion, aiming for universal access to banking.
Basic accounts, credit, insurance, pension, especially for those left out before.
Right. And a key feature is that zero minimum balance requirement. removes a barrier.
It also gives a RuPay debit card with insurance cover and an overdraft facility.
Yes, a small OD facility.
Yeah.
Crucially, PMJDY is designed to enable access to other government schemes.
How so?
By facilitating direct benefit transfers, DBT. Once people have an account linked to Aadhaar, subsidies and benefits can go straight in.
Like PM Kisan.
Exactly, or pension scholarships. The document stresses the use of technology in rolling this out and managing it. It really is the essential on-ramp for so many other programs.
The foundation.
Pretty much. Once people are formally banked, other financial tools become possible, like MUDRA.
Microunits Development and Refinance Agency, LTD. MUDRA. What's its focus?
Small businesses, microenterprises. The objective is stated as funding the unfunded.
Providing credit to them.
Well, indirectly. The document's quite clear. MUDRA doesn't lend directly to the business owner.
Oh, so how does it work?
It refinances the institutions, banks, NBFCs, microfinance institutions that actually provide the loans to these microbusinesses.
Ah, okay, so it provides liquidity to the lenders.
Exactly. Encouraging them to lend more to this segment. It segments loans into Shishu, up to 50K, Kishore, 50K to 5 lakh, and Tarun, 5 lakh to 10 lakh.
Leveraging the existing banking network.
Rather than building a whole new lending system.
Yeah, okay. Switching gears to manufacturing now. The Production-Linked Incentive, or PLI scheme. This has been getting a lot of attention.
A major government push, absolutely. The objective is clear. Attract investment, boost domestic manufacturing, make Indian companies globally competitive.
And how does it work? It's an incentive.
Yes, it provides incentives based on incremental sales of goods manufactured in India. So the more you increase your production and sales from a base year, the more incentive you get.
And it started small but expanded.
Yeah, initially just 3 sectors, but it's rapidly grown to 14 key sectors now.
Like what?
Mobile manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, auto components, specialty steel, textiles, drones, a really wide range of strategic industries.
And the source mentions an expected cascading effect.
Right. The idea is that by boosting these large manufacturers, it will create demand down the supply chain, benefiting MSMEs as well, creating that whole ecosystem.
Okay. And then there's Startup India.
Yes, focusing on the other end of the spectrum, fostering innovation and new businesses.
Building that ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. The program offers a bunch of benefits to eligible startups.
Like tax breaks.
Yeah. Income tax exemptions for a period, capital gains tax exemptions under certain conditions. Also, simplified compliance self-certification for some laws.
A single window clearance portal. Faster patents.
All of that. Plus, a Startup India hub for support, and even an easier exit process if things don't work out, winding up within 90 days.
And there are specific criteria to be eligible. Age, turnover.
Yes, things like the type of company registration, being less than 10 years old, and turnover under 100 crore. And the document notes India's position now.
The 3rd largest startup ecosystem globally.
Which is quite a transformation.
Definitely. The source also mentions other schemes in this financial space. Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana for saving for a girl child.
Linked to Beti Bachao, yeah.
Mahila Saman Savings Certificate for Women's Financial Security. Digital tax appeals.
E-appeals scheme, making things faster.
Support for IT startups through Samarid. And even large infrastructure like Sagarmala, the Port Development Program, has a financial angle in facilitating trade.
It does.
Okay, let's try to unpack this combination. You have PMJDY bringing people into the formal system.
The base layer.
MUDRA helping micro-enterprises get loans.
Supporting the smaller players.
PLI boosting large-scale manufacturing.
And aiming for global scale.
And Startup India fostering innovation and new ventures.
The future growth engines.
This landscape is clearly a high-priority area using very different tools. How do they work together towards a broader economic goal?
Well, it seems like they're trying to build different complementary layers of the economy.
Layers?
Yeah. PMJDY creates that essential base of formal financial participation. MUDRA helps the existing informal sector grow and potentially formalize.
Okay.
Startup India is about creating the new, high-growth, innovative businesses. And PLI is focused on scaling up established manufacturing sectors to compete internationally.
So it's a multi-front push.
Seems like it. Pushing on multiple fronts to formalize the economy, enable credit access at different scales, and grow economic activity from the smallest street vendor potentially helped by MUDRA to large factories under PLI to tech startups.
Covering all bases, in a way.
Trying to, yeah.
Now let's transition to infrastructure and environment schemes. Physical development, but also protecting natural resources.
Right. And Faratmal Pariyojana is a standout here. Just colossal.
The Big Roads Project?
Exactly. Objective. improve freight and passenger movement efficiency across India, building a huge network of new roads.
Like economic corridors, border roads, expressways.
All of those, plus multimodal logistics parks to integrate road, rail, etc. The scale is immense. The target mentioned is 34,800 kilometers of new road development.
Wow. And the document mentions technology and multiple funding sources being used.
Yeah, emphasizing modern construction tech and pulling funds from various avenues. It's about fundamentally upgrading connectivity. For business, for travel.
A backbone for the economy.
Pretty much. Complementing that, on the basic amenity side, is the Jal Jeevan mission Har Ghar Jal.
Har Ghar Jal water in every home.
That's the goal. Providing a functional household tap connection, FHTC, to every rural household. The target year mentioned is 2024.
Access to clean piped water. That's fundamental.
Absolutely. The source notes a specific focus on areas affected by waterborne diseases like Japanese encephalitis acute, encephalitis syndrome.
And it involves community participation.
Yes, through village action plans developed locally, and these Panani Samitis or water committees at the village level responsible for operation and maintenance. Sustainability is key.
And the document highlights some successes. Places achieving 100% coverage.
Yeah, Pechitskoa, Burhanpur district in MP, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands as being certified Har Ghar Jal. Shows progress is being made.
Okay, shifting to environment. Namami Ganga Yojana.
The Clean Ganga mission, another major initiative.
Objective is pollution abatement, rejuvenation of the Ganga.
Yes, the whole river basin approach, aiming for both a Viral Dhara, continuous uninterrupted flow, and Nirmal Dhara, unpolluted flow.
That's a huge undertaking. Who implements it?
The National Mission for Clean Ganga, NMCG. And it involves a whole range of activities. Building sewage treatment plants, obviously, developing riverfront areas, ghats, crematoria, but also research through a think tank called Ganga, a Clean Ganga Fund for contributions.
Community involvement, too.
Yes, Kaganga Praharis train volunteers from local communities, and using tech platforms like Praywai for real-time monitoring of pollution levels and project progress.
Quite multifaceted.
It has to be for a river like the Ganga.
And looking towards cleaner energy, there's PM Suryaga Muft Bijli Yojana.
The rooftop solar scheme. Muft Bijli means free electricity.
Right. Aiming to install 30 GW of residential rooftop solar.
That's the ambitious target, to provide free or low-cost electricity up to 300 units a month to 1 crore households.
So reducing household electricity bills.
Boosting the domestic solar industry.
And contributing to energy security and climate goals.
All of those. The document also mentions plans to develop model solar villages as part of this initiative, showcasing the potential.
Okay. And the source lists many, many other initiatives in this infrastructure environment space. Rural broadband through Faratnet.
Using the Universal Service Obligation Fund.
MGNRAGA for Rural Employment Guarantee, which often involves creating rural infrastructure.
A huge employer.
PM Graham's Sadak Yojana for rural roads. Swachh Bharat Mission Phase 2 focused on ODF plus status, managing waste beyond just toilets.
Sustaining the gains and moving further.
Promoting village industries. Mapping rural property ownership with drones under the Swamitva scheme.
Giving people formal titles to their land. Huge.
Regional air connectivity through UDAN. Promoting electric vehicles.
EMPS scheme for E2Ws and E3Ws.
Urban development via Smart Cities mission. Integrated waste management and climate action in cities through Satitas 2.0.
Building on the first phase.
Urban livelihoods, loans for street vendors, PM Espanidaya, urban housing, PME Urban.
A lot happening in cities too.
And then things like a carbon credit trading scheme.
Introducing market mechanisms for emission reduction.
Solar pumps for farmers under PM Kosum. Groundwater mapping and management. Atal Bhujal Yojana, focusing on community-led groundwater management.
Extended till 2027, it notes.
And environmental information programs. It's just a massive list.
It really is. And here's where it gets, as you said, really interesting.
How so?
You see these gigantic infrastructure projects like Faratmala changing the physical landscape.
Yeah.
And Jal Jeevan Mission, aiming for universal basic services. Huge scale.
Right.
But alongside that, you have market-based approaches like the carbon credit trading scheme and very specific environmental programs like Namami Ganga or groundwater management.
So how does this combination, big infrastructure, basic services, environmental focus, how does it all tie together in the development picture?
It really suggests a recognition that development isn't just about GDP growth anymore, or shouldn't be.
Needs more dimensions.
Exactly. It needs that physical backbone, the roads, the ports. It needs people to have access to fundamental resources like clean water, reliable energy.
And you have to manage the environmental impact.
You have to at least try to address it.
Yeah.
So this document seems to show an integrated view where infrastructure, basic needs, economic activity, and environmental sustainability are all seen as interconnected parts of the national development agenda, not separate silos.
A complex balancing act.
Hugely complex.
Finally, let's touch upon some miscellaneous schemes, the ones that don't fit neatly elsewhere, or maybe represent newer approaches.
Okay, the PM Vishwakarma scheme is a great example here. Really interesting focus.
Vishwakarma supporting traditional artisans and craftspeople.
Exactly. The goal is holistic support for these Vishwakarmas.
What kind of support?
It includes formal recognition, an ID card and certificate, skill training with a stipend of $500 today while training,
Decent.
an incentive up to $15,000 to buy modern tools, support for credit access, incentives for adopting digital transactions, and help with marketing their products.
So covering skills, tools, credit, marketing, really end-to-end for artisans.
Seems like it. Covers both rural and urban areas across 18 traditional trades initially. The document notes eligibility criteria, age 18 plus store, working in a traditional trade, only one member per family, and exclusions if someone's in government service or has taken similar loans recently.
Very specific targeting.
Very. Then a completely different direction. The Agnipath scheme.
For defense recruitment.
Right. Objective. Infuse youth into the armed forces. Recruiting individuals, called Agniveers, typically between 17.5 and 21 years old.
For a fixed term.
Yes, a 4-year service period. The aim is to bring down the average age profile of the military.
And what happens after 4 years?
Up to 25% of the Agniveers from each batch can be selected for enrollment in the regular cadre of the armed forces. The rest are demobilized.
And they get support upon leaving.
Yes, a financial package called Sevanidhi, which is built up from contributions during service, plus insurance cover during service, and a skill certificate recognizing their training. And there's mention of priority being given to them in recruitment for Central Armed Police Forces, state police, etc.
A different model for military service.
A very different model. Then there's the Digital India program.
Not really a single scheme, more of a vision.
Exactly. An overarching national initiative. The vision is transforming India into a digitally empowered society and a knowledge economy.
How? By ensuring digital infrastructure. Access.
Yes, digital access for everyone, digital inclusion, digital empowerment. Making government services available electronically, improving digital literacy.
And the document points to things enabled by Digital India, like Aadhaar.
Aadhaar, Common Service Centers, CSCs, providing digital services in villages, DigiLocker for storing documents online, CertIn for cybersecurity, all fall under this umbrella. It mentions the 9 pillars of Digital India. It's the digital spine, really.
Enabling so many other services we've talked about.
Absolutely. Run primarily by the Ministry of Electronics and IT.
Okay, and the source continues with more specialized schemes, supporting MSMEs through the RAMP program.
Yeah, raising and accelerating MSME performance, World Bank supported, focuses on things like credit access, market access, addressing delayed payments.
Mission Karma Yogi for training civil servants.
Capacity building for the bureaucracy, using digital platforms. A big push for upskilling government employees.
MAHIR for research in the energy sector. ADITI for defense tech.
Yes, MHIR mission on advanced and high-impact research. AGITI acing development of innovative technologies with IDEX, both focused on promoting indigenous R&D in critical areas.
And the list goes on. MPLEDs, the scheme where MPs recommend local works.
Member of Parliament, Local Area Development Scheme.
Yeah.
Yes, giving MPs funds to direct towards small development projects in their constituencies. Note specific allocations for SCST areas, too.
Cross-border projects like Project Dantak in Bhutan by the Border Roads Organization.
Shows the strategic infrastructure element, too.
Logistic support for small traders via Harat Emart, a portal to trace lost phones, Sanchar Sathi.
Using tech for citizen convenience and security.
PLI 2.0 specifically for IT hardware manufacturing. Cybersecurity awareness training.
Cyber Surakshat Bharat, important in the digital age.
Earth sciences research under Prithvi Vigyan. Ropeways development under Parvatmala Paryojana.
For connectivity in hilly areas, tourism. Notes examples like connecting specific pilgrimage sites.
Funding for maintaining research equipment. Fellowships to connect Indian scientists abroad.
VAIBAV fellowships. Tapping into the diaspora.
Mega integrated textile parks under PMMITRA, skilling in the textile sector via Samarth scheme.
Supporting a key employment sector.
An online portal for artisans, boosting cotton productivity, formalizing micro-food processing enterprises, using the one district, one product approach.
PMFME scheme. Again, supporting small businesses, but in the food sector.
Wow, that is just an absolutely massive scope in this miscellaneous section alone.
It really is, from traditional artisans with Vishwakarma
to modern digital infrastructure with Digital India.
Defense technology, environmental research, specific sector support.
What common thread, if any, can you even pull through this incredibly diverse set of programs?
Well, maybe the common thread is just how active the government is trying to be across almost every conceivable spectrum.
Not just sticking to traditional areas.
Right. Not just basic welfare or big infrastructure. It's intervening or trying to shape outcomes in niche areas, leveraging technology heavily, supporting specific clusters or skills, and getting involved in strategic sectors like defense and high-tech manufacturing.
It seems like a very proactive stance, shaping different parts of the economy and society.
Definitely. Often with an eye towards modernization, formalization, and maybe building specific national capabilities.
Okay. So we've taken a deep dive, a really deep one, into this huge compilation of government schemes.
We certainly have.
We've touched on agriculture, education, health, finance, infrastructure, vulnerable sections, and this whole range of other initiatives.
And this document, this source material, it provides such a detailed look at the sheer scale, the complexity.
And the strategic intent, presumably, behind these government efforts, driving development, addressing societal needs through these programs and investments.
Understanding the objectives, the mechanisms, who they're trying to reach, as outlined in this source, it's really crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives you insights into national priorities, provides context for the news, for policy debates you hear about.
And these programs, they're not abstract. They can and do directly impact people's lives. Individuals, families, businesses, whole communities.
Absolutely. Being informed about this landscape, it helps you, the listener, understand what opportunities might be out there.
What challenges the government is trying to tackle, and maybe the direction public policy is heading.
It really brings home the scale of governance in a country like India. The complexity is just staggering.
It is.
So here's a final thought for you to consider, something to mull over after hearing all this. Given the incredible diversity and sheer number of these initiatives, we've covered dozens, and the document lists even more, and thinking about some of the challenges mentioned, like with PMGKY's beneficiary list.
Right.
What do you think might be the single biggest operational hurdle, a practical challenge on the ground, in ensuring that all these varied programs are actually implemented effectively and truly reach the vast, diverse population they're intended to serve across the entire country?